than it is to hold you back, And I feel like, I'll put it like this. I invested. I've complained about my lack of technology for the longest time. Well, no more excuses. I decided to actually invest and go bankrupt. No, but I invested in a laptop, a legitimate laptop that can actually handle doing editing. So for the first time in this channel and this podcast, you will actually see some editing. You may see an intro, a cool intro. You may see some shit that's cut out. You may see stuff speed up. You may see just like some cool designs. But the genesis of the show is still going to always be the same, which is me putting myself out there when I shouldn't. But, it's very, one thing I'm very proud of is I don't want this to be so, I don't want my channel or my show to ever be pigeonholed. I think it's very important to talk about that, right? Because regardless of your success levels, I've been doing a lot of research and kind of like preparing for this next level elevation. That I know when I start putting out clips and really start looking at it from a different lens, I really can understand it from a different point of view and really get more on the technical side. So I really, can see more than just the fun and the content creation aspect of it. I've been watching a lot of videos of my first year monetization, because it'll be like, oh, my first year being fully monetized, how much I made. And, you're not surprised at the number, really the only thing that kind of drew my eye, I was really surprised at fluctuations in month by month, some. And it's people that consistently it is a lot of vlog channels. But, so it is different when you're doing something very, very long form. But it's also harder. I would say it's a little bit harder to do something like this, get seen, and really try to make some of this in vlog. Because vlog is it feels very personal. It's a lot of moving parts. For this, you have to really display, you have to really articulate, you have to keep someone's interest by just your talking points, not going off point as I'm going off point. But, you're really being vulnerable. Not to be gay here. But, I've been watching a lot of, just kind of on when you are at similar points as other people and they go through their journey of that. So I'm kind of knowing what to expect, and all that stuff. And it is very interesting, and it really kind of reignites that fire in you. Because I think sometimes when things are so dead still, you just kind of accept things for what they are for the longest time. And I think this is going to be a point starting at this episode, I'm going to try to use the editing software and stuff like that. I know it's crazy to say out loud. But yeah. So yeah. But yeah, two important news. This is very, very late to the party. But I actually wrote it down probably a couple weeks ago in my notes. But I kind of had this it's a story about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think. Probably happened a month ago. So everyone knows about the guy who went through this coffee shop drive-thru, but it's a drive-thru to where the ladies are dressed, very scantily. Basically, Crunch Fitness. It's basically Crunch Fitness in a Starbucks drive-thru in a way, Nothing wrong with that. But apparently this guy was coming through for periods of time, and he was kind of weird. And so they knew when he came and he ordered something, they were just ready. They had the camera out the window. And this man at the window, fully nude. Dude was fully nude. The lady was recording him, recorded his face and everything, put him on blast. And then, not too long after, he blasted himself. There's nothing to joke about. But the things is it caused a little bit of controversy. Or I don't even say comic. I think most people are on the side like, this guy's a fucking weirdo. But he's married and has a kid. So as another layer, this isn't just some creep that did whatever to himself and, only his, mom has to deal with it, From a trouble, like, he had a wife and a kid. Well, this man literally left the house. He said, I love you, babe. Pulled down his pants, went to a drive-thru and was like, yeah, this is what the ladies want. And I guess the pressure is like, it went viral and all that stuff, and the guy was put on blast. So he's like, fuck. And he took his own life. And, there's a part of it where, like, she didn't have to make it go viral or nothing. And I get the point of that. At the same time, yeah, no, she kind of did have to make it go viral, Not that should be the result, but honestly, if someone was going to take their life because of something, they put themselves in a situation that was really unnecessary, and they took their life even knowing that they're leaving especially their child and their wife behind, I don't really have too much empathy for that. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know, is it empathy or sympathy? No one ever says it right. And it just, the thirst of people these days, the guys where it's like, guys will go through the greatest length. Like, when has ever pulling down your pants in public ever gone well for you? 99%. Regardless if your body is nice to look at or not, it typically doesn't work out when you do that. It puts people in very uncomfortable situations. So I guess it's more of, is it right, is it wrong for someone to put that out on the internet? They could have just went to the police, all that stuff. But reality is, stuff like that, unfortunately, things have to be made for public humiliation. Because think about, like, if you think about, like, the old Roman times, like, they would publicly humiliate you, publicly beat you. Like, if you committed some, like, crimes with children and shit like that, like, they would beat your ass, cut your genitalia off for the whole town to see in the middle. It would be a whole event. And since no one's afraid of the genitalia getting cut off anymore, guys go around and they drive with their pants off, I mean, at least put your dick in a box, He's on a lonely island now. But the guy, honestly, his smile when he was put on blast, he's a creep. And if you think that's the first time he's ever done that, and that's how, when you're so thirsty for attention, where you're like, oh, I'm going to leave the house today, pull my pants down, show them what I'm working with. It doesn't work out for 99.999%. And if you do, you better really make sure, she really wants you. Because even if she really wants you, if you aren't her immediate partner or nothing, like, it's kind of like, but yeah. I was just asking for a cup holder. But yeah. Also, I will say, I am an avid podcast listener in general. And it's weird. I've gone through this phase recently where the beautiful thing about when a lot of people aren't really fans when there are repeat guests on a podcast type of thing. Like, especially if it's a lot within a short period of time. If it's a few years in between, people are pretty cool with it. But I guess when you've been doing something for 10 years and stuff like that, like, especially at first, your guest list is going to be a lot smaller. It's going to be a lot of your close friends or just people you really want to talk to, people you're comfortable. So I've been on a real binge of someone that's been on JRE like I think I looked at like 20 plus times maybe. But I just, there's this comfort of just listening to years and years. When you just love a dynamic between two people, there's a comfort, there's an entertainment, I think that beautiful balance when you find that dynamic where they could be talking about the most serious shit. They could be talking about the most craziest, like, point of views of life, their experiences and stuff, and wounded gazelles. And it kind of feels like you're listening to the same conversation every time, but almost at different points in life. And I've been just on this binge of listening to Greg Fitzsimmons and JRE. I don't know why I'm saying it like that, but yeah. And it's one of the most underrated podcast duos of all time. It never disappoints. And it's almost like when you are, we always want to say we want to listen to new stuff, Oh, we need something different. Then when these shows, they get guests on that you've never heard of, you read what they do, there's hesitation to click because you're investing an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours into, and you're like, I don't, like today. He had some guy on named Rick Caruso. He's like some politician, businessman. And I was like, I don't really want to fucking, like, if I'm going to dedicate this much time, like, I may give it 10 minutes. In that 10 minutes, if I don't really like the way the person talks, I'm probably just going to listen to something I know. And that's why I like having a proven track record matters, Like, we all want to say that, we want them to have, like, all these cool scientists and shit. It's like, then the biggest episodes are the ones that's the repeat, yes, that we know what we're getting, the fun. So, yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah, I think just sometimes it's very important to build a community within yourself, not be afraid to, expand them hips. But, I will, there is this weird thing. This is just my view on something. People want to act like, and I will say, I've become a little bit more paying attention to kind of how dangerous gambling is to young people and how it does, like, it can ruin people's lives and stuff like that. It can be a real addiction. It is like a thing to where